whether you do good or bad, by the way, karma happens. And that's another thing that takes a lot of time to process. Therefore, when I evolved sonically from my true underground hardcore perception of music and how music needed to sound, etc., to now a more mainstream or a more open sound or more digestible kind of music. That happens when my father dies, because all my career, at least until my father passes away in 2014, the interesting thing is that he was always telling me, yeah, your music is amazing, but it's too complicated. You can still transmit the same message, the same depth, the same intensity, but formulate it in a way that's digestible by a vast amount of people. In other words, make spiritually infused sounds cool and fun to kick it to. I looked at him like he was just talking some nonsense, because I just didn't understand what to do and how to go about making that possible. So my response was like, yeah, but you don't understand, because you like, and yeah, maybe he didn't understand some stuff, but he was not wrong. Because it's like, if you're planning to make a living from this, you're gonna have to figure out a formula. Just like you have to figure out a formula when you do anything in life that is not a regular 9-to-5 job, where you have a boss at the end of the day that gives you your money, your check at the end of the month, right? And even when you have that, if you have the mindset and the capacity to actually endeavor yourself into, external stuff to what you're already doing, in order to help you make ends meet or get a slightly better income at the end of the month, yeah, it's all about adapting, and making choices, right? So when that choices to when living a choice, when that whole movement in my musicality happened to me, I started to produce sound differently. Like the sounds that came out of my hands of me were just different, and there was nothing I could do about it. And nothing I also wanted to do against it neither. Because for me, it was just the natural extension of me. But I was very well aware that I would encounter some serious backlash. So when I started to do my Ancestral Soul Interpretation mixtapes, which were a rather big success, and set a whole trend of thing, of course, after that in the industry, before being successful as they were superly critiqued. Promoters started to talk shit and saying that I was this, I was that, and it's no longer the Boddhi that we know. We're not sure we're going to book him next year. We're not sure we're going to book him next month, etc., etc., etc. And I was like, you know what? I understand, but what's wrong with just evolving, right? And I was like, okay, cool. Agents at the time were like, no, you gotta adapt, man. Come on, we need you to give us some music to get back into the scene. And I was like, all right, cool. So I started, producing again the songs that was required for me to, enter the certain clubs, etc., etc. And that's great, can do that. And it's important to understand the difference between what you're doing for you and what you're also doing for commerce and for the people as well. And still managing to maintain that strong you within that whole, Caesar salad, right? That's not easy. But, you try, you fail. You come up with new formulas, you realize that shit, drum patterns you create influence a whole fucking generation of producers. And every time you come up with new beats, you're seeing the guys that are really like, observing all your beats, just like I was when Shuna Day would drop, or Kenny Dope, Louis Vega, or Alton Miller, or Ron Trent, you name them. All those guys came up with new shit, and I would just fucking be there starting the music. And that's amazing. You have alumni that, are coming after you, listening to what it is that you're doing, and ready to take from what you're given and transform, and eventually end up inspiring you in return, because they've worked on their envelope and mastered a certain kind of sound themselves. So it's, again, adaptability, right? Adaptation, etc. But you see, there's so many layers to adaptability that it's not also just your capacity to adapt, right? Mountain of Inspiration, what's going on, King? Welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate your presence. It's also how you're able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. As a DJ, I've had the blessing and the chance to perform almost all around the world. Almost. I didn't do South America yet, New Zealand, Australia, but pretty much every other countries I've DJed. And it opened my eyes and my skill, which is a very specific skill. It's one of observation. I've always been a very observing person. When I go out, I observe, I look at people, I analyze how they react to music, I analyze how the DJ plays, I listen to the songs that are being played, I listen to the specific moments where people react a certain way when that DJ plays a given tune, etc., etc. So all these experiences through the years allowed me to really paint a picture that is, or a series of pictures to which I fall back to when I enter, specific environments, specific venues where I'm demanded to play in front of a big crowd, etc. Or even sometimes, I remember I had a gig in Rome, in Milan. Big shout out to Massimiliano La Piovra, and he booked me at his venue, and he did a great job, man. He promoted the night the best way he could. It was a small venue, and he's always been a guy that supported my music. Man, there was literally 4 people that night in the venue. 4 people. And the guy was so, he felt really bad, but he already paid my fee. I was like, look, I'm here, bro. I'm gonna do my job. And I played, and it happened that within the 4 people that were there, 2 of them I knew, obviously, and the 2 others were ended up. One was there with his fiance at the time, and wife now, and became a very good friend of mine. A big shout out to DJ MS. And had I not DJ'd, like if there was 100+ people in front of me that night, I would have probably never created that connection, because I was genuine in my performance. Now, granted, I know 100 colleagues with the kind of stature, status, name, whatever, they would say, fuck that, Why? It's never been me. And that's always been something that worked against me. Adaptability. Sometimes by being too adaptable, we get diluted. That's where you have to understand with whom you're adapting and how much you're adapting. You know what I mean? How much you're giving, in other words. Because it's all about, measuring what will be the aftermath or the result or the outcome, or, the return on that investment of energy, etc., etc. So in that case, I knew it was a safe thing to do, because these are not the kind of promoters that they're not vampires. These are just guys running the pop and moms kind of store. They're just big fans, and they just want to host you the best way they can, and treat you to the best possible food they can, treat you to And that's a groove, that's a vibe, right? So blessings, Papa Kesha. Yes, indeed. Boddhi is in the building. Shot again as well. Welcome indeed. And so I've always had to balance my humility, which was, but again, I'm not trying to say that I'm super humble because I'm also cocky. I can't be cocky like anyone else. But my education has been so strict. My dad, my grandfather, my mother, like they were so strict in making sure that I always fucking stay humble. Because they would humble my ass real fucking quick. And I was a kid, I never liked to be told what to do. Oh, Papa Kesha, Sidi l'a mis pour la donation. Ah là là, 9,99 €. Ah, vraiment, sponsor des sponsors. So that kind of like continued chasing me, and that's how I am to this day. I don't like to be told, right? I don't like to be told of. So I'm always gonna try to behave in a way, in the best possible way. So I'm mindful of other space. I'm mindful of my distance. I'm mindful of my place. I know my place. Even when I'm given space to, you know, where somebody, we go to somebody's house and they'll be like, look, man, this is your home. You know, please help yourself to the fridge. I can't. I'm always going to be asking, please, can you get me something? Or do you mind if I take? And if they say yes, I say, oh no, but do you mind if you, unless they cannot do it, then I'll go and eventually open the fridge and help myself to what it is that they're offering or what I'm asking, right? This is my education. This is the values, a set of things that I know not everybody has. And under being conscious of the fact that just because you have that sense does not mean that other people will have it as well. It's accepting that difference, but not letting yourself get lost in your sense of abnegation and sort of, capacity to, at a certain point, lack the courage to say, this is where I'm drawing the line. That's where your adaptability became a situation where you allow the person to, because you were so flexible, it allowed that person to enter now your space, and you're cornered. You're no longer able to oppose a measured response to the attitude, the behaviors, etc., etc., etc. And this is something that I had to learn, and I'm still learning to a certain extent, but I've learned very well by now. Because, you know, when you are kind, people will always think you're dumb. And it will never go out of fashion. For me, I would never stop being a kind person just because people done me wrong. However, you have to understand that you're going to be more guarded. Of course, it's normal. You know, nobody likes to be hurt, whether it be in business, in friendship, love, etc., etc., etc. Nobody likes that feeling because you feel abused, you feel taken advantage of, even though it may not necessarily be the case. It may not necessarily be the case, because it could also very well be your own interpretation of a given situation and your ego feeling bruised when it should have nothing to do with it. You gotta be, and this is the thing, adaptability requires of you to be as cold as you can be with your move making, so that you're not doing things out of spite, but yet use anger or resentment or any kind of off feelings that you may have within you as the fuel to giving into something more positive. And instead of biting back, understanding that, you know what, let me be the bigger person in this picture for now. Because sometimes if you do need to slap a bitch, by that I'm not saying woman or no, just in general, right? So don't come and take my words off of the context. You do need to sometimes just be like, hey, yo, hold the fuck off now. You're not gonna trespass this position here. Stay in your place. Know when to respect the limit I'm giving between our, environments because right now they're not mixing. And that's the thing, right? So setting boundaries, setting your personal goals, understanding that if you lack a real sense of self, you will be taken advantage of. Nicole Gonçalves, muito boa noite. Be very welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in. And so, you see, circling back to what I was saying, so as I evolved in my career, 21 years career now, this year, this and that and the other, seen a lot of things. I've not seen it all, but I've seen quite a lot.